Mr. Smith, I'm here at Trinent Parish Church. This is in East Lothian in Scotland. The town of Trinent is about 300 feet slope from the bottom of the top of the Pans up until where we are in Trinent. So this church here has one of the most exciting examples of whole cemetery gravestones. And guys, I'd just like to give you a live view and a recording on this. This church does and can date back way back to the 11th century. It also has been refurbished many times since then. So there has been a church on this site for hundreds and hundreds of years. So we are discussing this further in further videos. I'll have to stop. Hopefully we'll be able to get more information. So on and around this site, if we look at where the church is right now, okay, and also if you did look further to your left and further on in the distance, there is a marker stating the Battle of the Prestonpans. So this around here has a lot of history regarding the Jacobites in 1745 regarding to the Battle of Prestonpans, and a colonel of such. Now I can't remember his name because I popped way up, but this colonel, he fought in the Battle of Prestonpans, and he did die in and around 1745. So with this information, the local people within our community has been researching the history historically, that apparently this colonel is actually buried within this cemetery grounds. So I'm just going to walk you through. You most probably won't see me, but you will hear my commentary. So let's go with me and join me on this quest through Trinent Parish Church. Right, so as you can see, we're coming up to these really old gates, and it's kind of creepy, but it's lovely when it's through the day. So we're getting a basic view. As you can hear, it's very old and creepy, but it isn't creepy because it's full of lovely history. And this is what I want to explain to people. You know, cemeteries are not about being creepy. Cemeteries are about history and social history of the people that lived in the past. And if I can bring that social history alive, I shall. So through these headstones, I can research these people. And if you look at the examples of the headstones and that how uniquely they're carved, you know, obviously through centuries or hundreds of years, I should say, that they have been finally worn down by weather, and obviously that does happen. So we're walking around the cemetery in general. You can see the parish church where you are here and now. Now this parish church, this has been on and around this site since the late 800s. So there has been a church on and around this area for thousands of years. But obviously you've got the main where it goes back to the 15th century, and obviously throughout that there has been refurbishment. So this church as it stands today is much different to what it was back in the day. So back in the day there has been many changes, and the church has gone with modern times. So we do see glimpses of the past when we look at the structure of the church. But generally it's a modern day build as such, and I think the latest build was in the late 1800s. So the church was changed further into the church that we know today. So if we walk through the cemetery in general, I'm just going to give you a brief overlook of what we see within this church with this commentary. There is a lot of people that have lived on around this in this parish for centuries. So there's like generations and generations of people. So lived and buried in this cemetery, and I find it very interesting that we do this. So as I'm walking slowly through, you can see the different examples. There are slightly modern examples, like this stone here. Some of it is legible and some of it not, but you will find obviously the older stones will not be as legible as the modern stones. So obviously time, weather, and the way that the materials that they used can obviously affect the stones that we know today. Okay, and there is a lot of prominent people within this cemetery as well, because this cemetery was really known for people that had money, basically, back in the day, you know. And because they had the money, they were allowed to be buried within this church. But if I go further down the road, there is another church, but this is for the common people, as we call it. Yeah, so these are the lords, the esquires, and people that have money. So they were able to afford these unique gravestones as we speak. So as we're walking around, you can see the outward border of the church. If I walk a wee bit forward, and you will see the gradual incline and decline to the height from where the lower part of the church is to the top part. So if we look down here, if you go further down to the end of this, you're coming into the area where the Battle of Prestonpans is, or one of the many areas of Battle of Prestonpans. If you look over the far distance, you'll see this flag, you'll see the River Fife, the River Forth and Fifth. Also you'll see Fife in the distance. Where that flag stands over there is where it's a marker to state that where the two forces did collide and fought for what they believed in. So if you look up again, you can see there is an incline, an incline going up and to a higher point. So as you can see, Tranent is from a lower point to a higher point is 300 feet. Okay, so from sea level. So as we walk through, apparently Colonel Gardner that did fall in the Jacobite rebellion in 1745 is actually buried in this cemetery somewhere. And through speaking to the local priest of the area, I actually found out that there are the History Society of Prestonpans that is apparently trying to research where Colonel Gardner is actually buried within this church. But obviously, being that some of the markers are just unbarely legible, there is no way that you're going to be able to get the information. For all we know, Colonel Gardner could be buried here. But obviously through years, we just don't know. So hopefully, if we could do the research and find out, that we will find out the history and whereabouts this gentleman is buried, because he seems to be a very prominent figure within the community and the Jacobite rebellion. So we're walking through, and it's such a beautiful day in East Lothian in Scotland that it's a pleasure to come out and just generally walk the cemetery and look at the headstones as we go along. I've visited here before, so this is a revisit, and I'm coming back again. Now, if we look right ahead of us, the next few stones are really fantastic, okay, and this is what fuels my passion, just to look at these carvings. Isn't it amazing? You know? Now again, I would love to read the inscription, but I just really can't. But I'm hoping for some information that will further who is buried here and why. Okay? Again, so you're still recording? Yep, lovely. This is another headstone. Okay? This is a Roger Valence papaya. Okay, and again, if you look further up, you'll see that the coat of arms over years has faded and has gone. But sadly, there's still some of the lovely inscriptions, as well as the beautiful markings and carvings that brings me to these cemeteries today. Okay, so guys, if I bring you further in, again you can see the difference between the faded and the not so faded. Again, all unique in their own special way. And I think it's going to have to be another visit because my battery's low, which is horrible. So again, you can see this unique in its own way. So as we walk through, sadly I don't know who's here, why or whatever, but eventually as I research the geology, things will change and I'll be able to put a name to the graves. And we've got a beautiful big dog going woof woof woof. Again, as you can see, the gravestone is faded, but again that's through years and years and years of weather erosion. So again, these are the graves that really interest me. And again, what is this? We ignore the dog going roof roof roof. This is George Anderson of Cockenzie, died the 2nd of, I think it's November, but I could be wrong, 23. So here's a gentleman I could research. So as we look further, you'll find also with the older cemeteries and the older gravestones that they didn't have a plinth like that one we've just seen, and they may be laid on the ground. But again, if they're laid on the ground, it just means that obviously through hundreds of years and the weather erosion, that it's just fell. And sadly, it's fell into decline. And sometimes that could be because of people destroying the headstones, or just generally weather in general. So as we walk through this cemetery again, you can see a beautiful church as we walk through. And now we're walking down towards the church. I'm only going to try and point out the really old headstones, and they're the ones that really interest me more than anything else. Okay, so again, we're coming to another unique headstone with a plinth, and obviously being that this headstone is in much better condition than the one we've just seen, you can see the carvings on this is unique in its own special way. But yet again, sadly, due to age and weather erosion, the name has faded. So as I said, I wait for information to come to me to give me knowledge of who's here, and then I'll be able to research from that further on. So here we go, guys. Now again, this is weather erosion, and sadly, being that the age of the stones, they just fell into disrepair, or that just generally weather has broken them up, and also the material that used for the early headstones do degrade through bad weather. Whew, big fly. Okay, so again, if I just turn around from that, okay, and we come round to here, and look at this. This is another exquisite example of a headstone, a very early headstone. Again, a lot of these symbols, if we go closer into the centre of this headstone, has either a mitre or a chopper